visiting your journal entries from the past?
Oh man, it's I call them breadcrumbs. They allow for me to revisit how long or how much I've grown. When I go back to things from even 2 or 3 years ago, it allows for me to. I have this insane kind of sense of gratitude for how far I've come. And then there's ones where there are entries where there are wounds. And so I revisited it, and I'm just kind of like, I'm emotional about it because it either still has an impact or the pain hasn't actually subsided. Like any entry about my mom on certain levels, on some days, fine. On other days, it's a lot. I'll give you a great example. Today, my bonus dad called me right before you joined. And he was like, "Did you see the message I sent you?" And I was like, "No, I'm getting ready for this podcast." He was like, "Check your WhatsApp." The photo is of him and my mom from 1996, 97. And it was just it was a beautiful moment that made me remember my mom in a way when she was healthy and she looked great. And, my mom liked to flex. So she had the dress on, she was sunglasses. She was, and it was a positive memory. Right. And so that counteracts. That's one of those good day examples. Had it been another day when I wasn't in a great state with thinking about, her, that might have triggered a response. So it really varies, and it depends on the subject matter.
Yeah, in that specific example, something that I often say is, broken hearts still beat. So, like that's just in different ways going to make that ventricle tick a little differently, right? But in that moment, it felt good. So
atrium and ventricles, you nerd.
So when I go back and to the point about looking in your journal entries, one thing that I think about is the only time I'm actually disappointed in myself is not related to me not achieving a goal. Because if I don't achieve a goal, it just wasn't the goal that I was meant to achieve. I need to adjust. I need to get a lesson from it. But the only time I'm disappointed in me is when I go and look at journal entries and I haven't grown.
Yeah.
Like that thing that I'm talking about or struggling with. Yes, I'm still dealing with it. That's even back to connected to the HALT method and the self-checks of like, what's driving my behaviors? I don't want to see that I've been struggling through the same thing for years and years. And it's interesting because even to your example you were given, right, there's the healing and then there's the burden and the baggage. And you could be healed while still having the burden at times, and you need to unburden yourself, right? Just let it down. I'm not hurting from the thing, but like it's still a little sore, right? It wasn't the inflict of the injury. So when I was talking to Reggie this week, he was I think we need to destigmatize things. You could take it up with me and see me, bro, if I put your business out here in this moment. But he was talking about returning to therapy. And I was really hyped that he's going to a therapist. And I don't recall, it sounded like he had tried it before. And this is him really committing to trying it. And I was super proud of him. I'm like, man, I want all of our bros to be in therapy. Like it's a flex to have one. And we were talking about an event that we want to bring to the Dallas area where we do like speed dating and connect people to therapists and all of that. But in the conversation and just sharing what I've learned through my experience, I was explaining to him that what I was hearing him say was more of a focus on he wants to go and talk about the things that have happened as of late, because he felt as if back to that healing, I've made peace with the things of my childhood. But while you may have made peace and you may have been healed in some ways, back to that idea of, well, have you really understood how that impacts the things of the last 4 to 5 years? So he thought he may only want to go. He's like, I only need to really work through the most recent. I'm like, wait until you work through the recent things and see how the things you think you have
are connected to things that you haven't quite healed all the way from. Boy,
that's the only thing. Now, sometimes I'm proud when I go in my journal and I see, oh, that underlying thing that I talked about 8 years ago, I went and surfaced, I faced it, I really approached it, and I have worked through that, and I have improved. It's a log in that way, right? It's the only time I'm ever disappointed in me is if I have not grown from something that I have documented down. Man, I'm still messing with this, but it's cool to have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's intentional, right? It allows for you, again, there's that word inventory. Like you're okay, I have this. Damn, I'm still struggling with this. I need to make sure that I'm hyper aware of it now because I went back to check. And that part's important, especially journaling could be very helpful in those moments when you do go through your HALT method, right?
Do you want your journal to be released when you die? Look at your weirdo friends who ask questions like this.
Not widely released, but I would love for my children to read it for sure.
That'd be cool with wide release. Maybe that's the artist in me. I ain't saying nothing crazy about people in there. I'm thinking, I'm thoughtful when I'm writing. But yeah, no. Yeah.
Well, I would imagine that yours are a little bit more wordsmith than refined.
It's my essay.
Than mine. Mine. Yours.
Yeah.
You're like Edgar Allan Poe.
All of my journal entries start with the title.
Yes. You titled
it's
things in your life, your whole life.
Yes.
So that makes sense.
My collected works. Yeah, and it gives me a framework for how. I mean, clearly, right? Like we go through titling every single week. It gives me a framework for